All right? So this was advice to those around Jesus who he's saying to them, you are going to become shepherds of a part of the flock, and these are the patterns that you have to follow. And then finally, we need to turn also to 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 1 to 4. And here is the great St. Peter, and he starts off by saying, I exhort the elders among you as a fellow elder and a witness to the sufferings of Christ, as well as one who shared in the glory to be revealed. Tend the flock of God that is in your charge, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly, as God would have you do it, not for sordid gain, but eagerly. Do not lord it over those in your charge. Be examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will win the crown of glory that never fades away. The point we want to focus on is that Peter, in a very brave way, says that he was a witness to the suffering of Christ. You weren't there, right? You ran away, right? He reminds the people of the suffering of Christ, but he's not just talking about the crucifixion. He's talking about the entire ministry of Jesus, in which he faced the agony of rejected love day after day after day. And Peter ties together the agony of rejected love and the reality of glory. And the word glory, as we get it from the Hebrew, which shines through the Greek, has to do with gravitas, with ability to lead the community with a kind of quality of life that will be able to help them in the deepest and most powerful way. All the way through church history, we have found those who have indeed found that the gravitas that they are able to exercise with the community comes to them through their suffering. And perhaps it is only in suffering that we are able to discover the reality of that gravitas that is needed that we might be able to lead the Church of God. Our son, David, just over a year ago, died of a brain cancer. And one of my friends gave me a little collection of reflections by Nicholas Wolfstorff, a recently retired professor of systematic theology at Yale University, whose son fell just over a couple of years ago in an accident in the Alps, climbing alone, and fell and was killed. And he talks about his suffering and the suffering of God, and writes as follows: God is not only the God of the sufferers, but the God who suffers. The pain and fallenness of the human heart have entered into his heart. Through the prism of my tears, I have seen a suffering God. Instead of explaining our suffering, God shares it. I never saw it. But though I confess that the man of sorrows was God himself, I never saw the God of suffering. The tears of God are the meaning of history. Every act of evil extracts a tear from God. Every plunge into anguish extracts a sob from God. When God's cup of suffering is full, our world's redemption is fulfilled. Until justice and peace embrace, God's dance of joy is delayed. The bells for the feast of the divine joy are the bells for the shalom of the world. May we who are called upon to be leaders of the church find through our individual and community suffering the meaning of the deep gravitas that we find in Jesus and we find in the apostles, that can be a blessing for us and a healing power for those we serve.